This program contains true stories of rescues. All of the 911 calls you will hear are real. Whenever possible, the actual people involved have helped us reconstruct the events as they happened.
On July 13th, 1991, some friends set out to explore an underwater cave in the jungles of Corimagua, Venezuela. But the map they had of the many chambers inside the cave was incomplete, leaving some unanswered mysteries which they hoped to solve.
The expedition was led by 32-year-old Gustavo Badillo. Gustavo's fiancée, Maria Elena Mendoza, had also come along.
I was never too happy about the idea. I had my second thoughts about going to the cave. And I didn't like the jungle. But Gustavo said, I won't go if you're not going. So I said, okay.
Their destination was located deep inside the rainforest, so they did not arrive until just before nightfall. Park Ranger Asmel Palencia had been hired to guide them to the place called Acarite.
The truth is, I was afraid because I've never entered into that cave. There are stories where they say he who enters that cave gets lost, never to come out again.
Gustavo planned to dive with his friend Eduardo Wallace, although neither of them had been trained for cave diving.
Before going to the cave, we went over the original map that we had. We were not concerned about any danger.
I was more and more scared. They had the suits, the mask, but they didn't have special equipment. They needed to have to go in the cave. So I said, well, then take this prayer and keep it with you.
We didn't have a cave dive reel, but we had different kind of ropes. On the map, there was a passage with a question on it that nobody has gone through. We just wanted to go in there and to see how far we could get.
The entrance to the first passage was about 30 feet below the surface.
At the beginning, it was pretty much clear. But this mud from the rock was coming off, so behind us, the visibility was turning into zero. The cave was very much more complex than we thought at the beginning. I got to a place where there was a big chamber I heard Gustavo coming out from the water, but I could not see him. We talked through the walls, and I said that we better go back, because if we continue to go into the cave, we were not going to be so sure which was the way out. I was swimming toward what I thought was the entrance. I found myself in a dead end. I finally realized that I was lost. I was desperately looking for a place with more air. I didn't think about Gustavo at that moment. After a while, I thought a big chamber, and I knew that I was outside.
I said, why are you asking me if Gustavo's here? Gustavo is with you. And he says, no, we got lost at the entrance. I was shocked. So I said, you go back and find him, because he must be right there.
Gustavo had all the ropes, so we made a line, probably in between 10 and 15 feet. Ricardo hold one end, and I hold the other, and I went below as long as the rope let me go.
We waited like 10 minutes. Eduardo comes back again, and for my surprise, he says, it's too murky. The water is almost mud, and I cannot find the entrance. And I said, this is the end of it, you know. It's like a switch. I was turned off. My life just stopped right there in that moment. He's gonna die, and I can do nothing from here.
They went in with a tank of oxygen to make noise under the water, to see if Gustavo could hear the noise and find his way out. But Gustavo didn't come out.
By that time, it was too dark to leave.
We sat there, and nobody said a word until the sun came out. Every minute that went on was a minute against his life. And the bottom of my heart, I thought that he was gone.
When we continue.
Now we're into almost 36 hours. The man's missing. We thought that it was completely unrealistic that he would be alive.
While diving in an underwater cave in the jungles of Venezuela, Gustavo Badillo became lost somewhere deep below the surface. As soon as it was light the next morning, his friends drove to the nearest town and called everyone they could think of for help, including the owner of the dive shop where Gustavo worked.
Hello? I had some experience in cave diving, but I've never done a rescue. I just wasn't trained to do it. So right away, I called a friend of ours in Florida. I knew that if anybody was the person to do it, was Steve.
Steve Gerard is one of the most experienced cave divers in the United States.
This is Vivian Triago calling from Caracas, Venezuela. We had a...
She wanted me to come down immediately to help find him. I can come down if you want me to. I had no idea where in Venezuela that it was located. There's a lot involved in getting ready to go down to where you are.
A friend of Gustavo's, Leo Calogaro, who had done some cave diving, heard of the accident and flew in to make a rescue attempt of his own.
When I saw him, I hug Leo and start crying, because for me it was my last hope.
Era un amigo.
He was a friend, but he was also a human being. I had to do something for him.
By this time, it had been more than 24 hours since Gustavo first entered the cave.
By and by, they came back out. They said they cannot enter. They didn't have the right equipment, and they didn't want to make the same mistake. When I came out, everyone was upset. Everyone. I told Maria Elena it's best if you leave, because tomorrow when they come, they may pull out a corpse.
So I took all Gustavo's belongings. I left his jacket, because it's going to be very cold, and his chocolate bar. He always has one after he dies. I said, this is it. You know, it's over.
It's very rare to find anyone alive in a cave. We've had over 325 fatalities in Florida alone.
Steve had convinced his friend, John Orlowski, a specialist in diving river caves like Acarite, to go with him to South America.
Well, if he's been in 50-degree water for that length of time, you have to realize he's hypothermic and probably dead.
In my mind, I was going to Venezuela to do a body recovery.
The trip from Florida was 1,500 miles by air and land. By the time Steve and John arrived at the cave, it was 7 o'clock on the morning of the third day.
My friends and I, we moved as fast as possible to help them get the equipment down. We didn't know whether to cry or laugh or what, because we felt that salvation had come.
Good luck, guys. Thank you, guys.
Hopefully we'll find some.
The one last thing I said to the crowd was, well, let's hope for a happy ending.
Okay.
But now we're into almost 36 hours that the man's missing. We thought that it was completely unrealistic that he would be alive.
I just was convinced this is ludicrous. I mean, who in their right mind would want to die this type of cave?
You couldn't see anything. Barely see your hand in front of your face. We could have been inches away. We could have passed the body 6 times and never even seen it. Steve said at that point, oh, just sit here for about 2 hours and go out and tell them we're going to find them. Because we're not going to find them in this. But it was like, okay, we're here. We have a job to do. Let's get it done and get out of here. I felt like I had made a left-hand turn. You can't see, it's just a feeling you have. And I saw light flashing. And I went, oh, you just swim around in a circle, and you're coming right back up on Steve. So I popped my head up, and I said, yeah, Steve, what? All I see is this person stumbling towards me. At that point, the victim had already grabbed me and was hugging me.
Okay. He was realizing that this was not a dream.
We started doing a lot of high-fiving, and it was like, I can't believe it. He's alive.
One of them came out. I don't remember who it was.
He's okay! He's alive!
I let out a scream that was heard, I'm sure, several kilometers away. I felt at that moment so incredibly happy.
Súper feliz.
I'll never forget that moment long. It was like from a movie, seeing that.
Apparently, Gustavo had gotten tangled in the guide rope and became disoriented while trying to free himself.
Seguí nadando.
I kept swimming through different passages. I was thinking, why is this happening to me? My legs. It was difficult to swim because they would fall asleep from the cold. What I wanted was to get out of the water, but the walls wouldn't let me. Time passed, I'm not sure how much. I practically couldn't feel my body. I saw the water, how it turned white. I thought the angels had come for me. And I said, oh my God, heaven is English and the angels are English.
Gustavo and Eduardo did a foolish thing. They went to this cave without having the right equipment or really knowing how to do it correctly.
In this particular case, they were extremely lucky.
Gustavo Badillo was treated for exposure and dehydration and released from the hospital that same day. 1 year later, he and Maria Elena were married.
Tengo problemas con María Elena.
I have problems with Maria Elena because she suffered a lot with this. And she's very much afraid of all my expeditions.
Gustavo likes to go to the mountains, to the beach, motorcycle rides, many places that I've never been because I've been very city type person. But I love him a lot. He loves my son. And as long as I can and God gives us life, I hope we'll be together. Gustavo!
Gustavo plans to return one day to explore the mysteries of Acaride, but only after becoming certified in cave diving.
Anyone that wants to go there, we have to tell them how dangerous that adventure could be. I think there is doses of inexperience in all this. It's good to be brave, but it's good to think about what you're doing.
Que Steve y John.
That Steve and John would come down from the United States and want to rescue me without even knowing me. I think that that's a true miracle.
Gracias a Dios vinieron los ángeles.
Thank God the angels came and they saved me.